Hello and welcome to my review of the Legiones Astartes Deimos pattern Predator battle tank for Warhammer the Horus Heresy from Games Workshop. This tank will cost you £40 and consists of 104 plastic components. Hey super, I've seen this tank somewhere before. Don't Space Marines already have a Predator tank? Well, yes they do, Timmy. You can purchase a Predator from Games Workshop for the same price, £40, and you can equip it with the twin link las cannon or the Predator autocannon. That Warhammer 40,000 kit consists of 94 pieces, so you are getting about 10 more pieces overall, and the old kit has been around for over 20 years now. Nothing stopping you from using the old Predator in your games of Warhammer the Horus Heresy, but bear in mind you're going to be limited to just those two weapon options. This particular Predator comes with a multitude of weapon options, 4 turret weapons in fact, a rapid fire Predator autocannon, a Gravis las cannon, a Volkite macro Seeker, which you can see here, and a Graviton cannon. In a recent Heresy Thursday article on Warhammer Community, they have disclosed Predator 2.0, I guess you'd call it, which they've just named Deimos pattern Predator support tank. So I wonder whether that will be on the box, probably. But the second variant of this kit, I guess, includes a plasma destroyer, a magnum melter cannon, flamestorm cannon, heavy conversion beam cannon, and neutron blaster. So that actually includes 5 weapons instead of this one's 4. So it depends on what kind of loadout and weaponry you'd like to pick up. One thing I will say is all of the turrets, you can hot swap them. So even if you decide to glue them like I usually do, you know, you can hot swap them between chassis, and the same for the sponsor weapons, and we'll talk about how awesome they are in a little while. I think Games Workshop have done a fantastic job with these and the Sicarans and the Kratos, being able to swap all of those, well, first of all turrets, but also the sponsor weapons too. So the format of this video is I will look at the model closer, then we'll go through all of those spare parts, all the different turret options and things. Then I'll go through some size comparisons with other Predators and the Sicaran and other large tanks, and then I'll go through all of the rules for the Deimos pattern Predator battle tank. The rules section of this review will be exactly the same as the rules section in the upcoming sort of Predator support battle tank review, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so let's have a look at the kit itself. It's pretty much completely uses up the Rhino sprues. If you've had a Deimos pattern Rhino right here, you're basically getting this kit in with the Predator, and it's a great chassis, and I knew that they'd do something like this with Predators and use that chassis. I didn't quite think that we'd be getting all of those other turret options, which is fantastic news. The additions from the Rhino kit though is of course the main turret weapon and these sponsor weapons, which are exactly the same as on the Kratos and the Sicaran. You know, they just have this mechanism and you just put them on, that, you know, which gives them just enough force to give them a vertical traverse and also a slight reciprocating movement as well. So that's great. Obviously the other extras, you get you know, this new kind of top panel that you don't get on the Rhino. These 2 hatches are kind of part of that panel though. It would have been nice to have a Space Marine's head sort of pop out there as a driver or whatnot. You get this front panel, which unfortunately has no backing there. The old Predators and Rhinos do have a backing, and then you could just paint it grey, put some gloss, and that's kind of like a greyed out window. But this, it's a complete hole. So, you know, if you want to be pedantic, a straight shot through there, insta-kill. No, so that's the main difference is these side panelling. So that's the main difference is this side panelling and the front and the top. Everything else is the same, such as the back ramp which I've glued mine shut, the exhausts and the tracks. The turret though is the new feature for this Predator, and it'll be very similar turret to what we're getting in the support tank. You'll be able to hot swap them between vehicles. Each weapon has its own. Each weapon comes with its own like attachment to the front, which is great because it means you can magnetize this to there, or you can just glue the weapon straight in and then magnetize this bit for each turret. So if you're on a bit of a budget and can only really get one, maybe two Predators like this one and the support one, then it gives you a really cost-effective way of swapping up your weapon loadouts for it. The only downside to doing this is the rear of the actual turret itself is specific to the weapon on the front. Now you could probably magnetize that, but I think if you just glued it on and left it, I don't think anyone's really going to have any issue. It just depends on what weapon you've got up front more than anything. So I've just white tacked mine at the moment, just to show you this, because I will be gluing this because yeah, I'll be getting multiple. But yeah, that just goes to show you you know, the versatility of this tank, and you know, based on the Rhino chassis and this now, it's going to be great when we get like the Scorpius and other variants like Command Rhino possibly, things like that, because it just means that you can put whatever turret you want on there, and even if it doesn't have sponsons, you could just use the Rhino sort of side paneling, which is brilliant. Okay, so spare parts then. I just want to give a shout out to the Rhino support sprue, which I always give a big shout out to. I think this is one of the best things Games Workshop have made in the past couple of years. This comes with the Rhino, and I think it's worth the entry price alone because of all the different pintle mounted weapons and things you get. They don't leave anything out. You also get a Mark II Space Marine, and I guess I'm building up quite a few of them now, so much so that I could have plenty with heads and shoulder pauldrons at least, you know, mixed in with my Mark IIIs, which is also fantastic. This sprue comes with all of the new plastic tanks, so the Rhino, the Predator, the Kratos, the Sakaran. It probably will come with the Scorpius and all those. And all of those, and it comes with the Proteus and the Spartan, all of the plastic tanks, and I think that this should be a mainstay. I said it before, with all of the resin tanks that Forge World make as well. Just bundle this sprue in. I'm sure they've got plenty, but it would be a, you know, great addition to the price that you have to pay. You know, you're paying £220 for like a fell blade or something. You know, having this like £8, £10 sprue, whatever, in there would be great, because you can use these weapons and these hatches and things with those tanks. So that's the sprue. These are all of the other spare weapons. So you've got the sponson las cannons, you've got the sponson heavy bolters and the heavy flamers. And you've got all of the other turret weapons in here, such as the Predator autocannon, the Gravis las cannon, and the Graviton cannon as well. So there's your three in there. Like I say, you get these extra plates, so you can, you know, I've kept these special as spare parts, but you can glue these in and then magnetize this sort of turret attachment to the turret itself. So that's great. So you can hot swap these if you wish. Big shout out to the great instruction guide, which shows you how to do this. So into the size comparisons then. Okay, first things first then, let's just show you it next to an OG Predator. Forgive the paint job and things, but they're pretty much the same size height wise. I'd say so, pretty much the same size. I would say that the Deimos looks a little bit bigger, a little bit taller, just because these extra armor panel, because of these extra armor panels on here, and also maybe add into the height these lower searchlights. But all intents and purposes, they're pretty much the same. If you see one of the outlines of these, you'll know it's and it looks a bit thicker as well because of that front armor paneling, which you don't get on the OG Predator. One thing I do like about these OG Predators though is the rear assault ramp does open and close very nicely. These new Rhino kits, it's a bit pants, it's a bit too tight. Yes, there is such a thing. So yeah, compares next to an OG Predator. As I said at the start, nothing wrong with you using these Predators in your games of Horus Heresy. It's a Predator at the end of the day. Compared to a Land Raider, I say an OG Land Raider, I just have this lying around. This Grey Knights Land Raider just gives you an idea of the size of such a beast. So yeah, even the old Land Raiders are, you know, a fair bit bigger. Even the old Land Raiders are huge compared to like the little Predators. Right, now on to some new models then. So we'll kick off with the Rhino first of all. Let's do it size order. So the Rhino, you know, Deimos pattern Rhino, fantastic Deimos pattern Rhino there. Looks like there's a lot going on that Rhino compared to the Predator, but it's going to be exactly the same size chassis wise, just going to look a bit bigger because of the turret and the sponsons. Then we'll move up a grade to the Sicaran. Sicarans are a fast tank, but they are a fair bit bigger than the Predators. It's a proper battle tank. This is where you get a this is like the sort of medium. So this is a mainstream battle tank, the Sicaran. So that's where it stands next to one of those. It's absolutely huge. So that's a fair bit bigger. And then we'll go on to the heavy battle tank, the Kratos. Absolutely mammoth, this thing. I love it. It's so cool. But yeah, it gives you an idea, you know, the size of the main battle, the size of the battle tank compared to the heavy battle tank. It's just nice having a lot of these little Predators milling about. So yeah, that's where it stands up next to one of those. Just another little comparison with the Land Raider. I haven't built the Proteus yet, forgive me, but here is the Spartan. Just goes to show you what this big transport behemoth tank, you know, the size of it compared to the Predator. You can almost drive the Predator in. So that just gives you that idea of those sizes. Show you it compared to a couple of dreadnoughts. So we have a Contemptor there, and also a Leviathan Siege Dreadnought. So gives you an idea. Sponsons actually look a bit too big, don't they, on this this Deimos? But yeah. And then compared to some Mark 6 and Cataphracti. So there's a Cataphracti and there's a Mark 6. Mark 6 do look pretty big next to this Predator, but they look pretty big next to a Rhino as well, though, to be fair. And compared to other Marks, so we've got a Mark 4 and a Mark 3. I don't know, I think it suits Mark 3 and maybe Mark 4 more than the Mark 6s. I'll probably say Mark 4 more than anything, these vehicles. And then the last 3 comparisons I always like to make is just with some 40k miniatures. So we've got Space Marine, Slime Arbo, and a Primaris Space Marine. So Primaris is pretty big. Not sure you could get away with Primaris with them now, but size-wise that is. Okay, so this is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Deimos pattern Predator battle tank. So you'll find them in your Liber Astartes army book. They're under, of course, heavy support. A Predator squadron will cost you 120 points. And the stat line reads a movement of 14 inches, ballistic skill 4, front armour 13, side armour 12, rear 10, 3 hull points and 0 transport capacity. The war gear The war gear it's equipped with is a turret mounted Predator autocannon, 2 sponsor mounted heavy bolters, smoke launchers, and special rules it has Legiones Astartes. Options: a Legion Predator squadron may take up to 3 additional Legion Predators, 105 points each. So it's worth getting multiples of them, especially if you want to have 4 for some reason, because then of course you're going to save 45 points bundling them all in a squadron of 4, and there's nothing like the sight of seeing 4 Predators all equipped with las cannons, or 3 with executioner plasma destroyers. I mean, it's a sight to behold. Any Legion Predator may exchange both of its sponsor mounted heavy bolters for 2 sponsor mounted heavy flamers for free, 2 sponsor mounted las cannons for 10 points per model, 2 sponsor mounted Volkite Culverin 10 points per model. Any Legion Predator may exchange its Predator autocannon for one of the following: a turret mounted Flamestorm cannon for 15, turret mounted Executioner plasma destroyer for 25, heavy conversion beam cannon for 25, Magnum melter cannon for 20, graviton cannon for 35, Volkite macro Seeker for 25, neutron blaster for 35, and a Gravis las cannon for 30. Now the standout there is that neutron blaster and graviton cannon. They're both 35 points. That's quite expensive. More on those a bit later. Any Legion Predator may take one of the following: a pintle mounted twin linked bolter for 5 points, a combi mounted weapon for 10, heavy bolter for 10, heavy flamer for 5, multi melter for 20, havoc launcher for 15, and you may take one hunter killer missile launcher, one mounted hunter killer missile for 5 points each, searchlights for 5, and dozer blade for 5. So let's briefly touch upon that armour before we get into the weapons. So compared to a Rhino, of which it shares the same chassis, its armour is considerably better. Instead of it being front 11, it's actually front 13, and the side armour is 12. Other than that, it has the same number of hull points, so just bear that in mind. If your opponent can crack that side armour of 12, you know, if you're firing your group of 5 las cannons at it, it's probably going to go down. But if they're equipped with missile launchers, it may survive. So, weaponry. So it's turret mounted weapons, because there are quite a few options. You can go what I've gone for, which is full Volkite, but that's mainly for the rule of cool. I'm trying to get as many Volkite as I can into my army, Volkite and plasma for Dark Angels, I think. The Volkite macro Seeker is incidentally quite a decent weapon. It's still got that 45-inch range. It's got strength 6, AP 5, heavy 8 deflag rate, and you couple that with those Volkite Culverins, which are 5 shots each, and you've got 18 shots at a nice 45-inch range with deflag rate. So it's going to be causing a lot of wounds, which could be saved, of course, but against weaker targets, it'll be great again. It'll be great against infantry. You can opt to go for the Flamestorm cannon first of all, which is just a template weapon, which is just like any flamer. It's a template. Strength 6, AP 4, heavy 1, torrent 18 inches, which means you've got up to 18 inches, and then you draw the actual flame template. So it's not as close range as you possibly might think. The Executioner Plasma Destroyer is pretty much where it's at. The Executioner Plasma Destroyer is, I'd say, OP. Putting it on a Predator is just really mean. It's a 60-inch range for starters. It's a strength 7, AP 4, heavy 1, large blast 5, rending 4+. It's a shame it's not breaching. I think that is an oversight, a massive oversight. I think it should be breaching. because of course what breaching does is it then swaps the AP from a 4 to a 2, and that's probably where it's being let down. You can go for the heavy conversion beam cannon, which is a bit of an esoteric weapon, but it works. It works, whereas the further away a target is, the more strength it gets and the better AP. So if you've got a target that's 42 inches to 72, you're getting a strength 12, AP 1, heavy 1, large blast 5-inch shot, which is pretty good that it's a large blast and it is AP 1 and it's a very high strength too. That is a, although it costs a lot points wise, I think you can delete like Terminators and even other vehicles. It's good to just delete. The Magnum Melter Cannon is a 36-inch range, strength 8, AP 1, heavy 3, armor bane, melter twin linked. How that compares to the Magnum Blast Gun of the melter blast gun of the Kratos is just odd, in that the only thing that the Kratos gets is one extra shot. It's a heavy 4, but it runs out of the twin linked. So you might as well get this one with one less shot and it be twin linked for the same range. Of course, obviously that one's a bit more protected, but for the points cost, this being a third of the points, you know, you having 3 of these, you've then got 9 strength 8 AP 1 shots. You could be really expensive and give them all las cannons as well, but it's a bit mean. Then you can go for the Graviton Cannon, which is a 36-inch range, AP 4. It's a heavy 1, large blast 5-inch, concussive, graviton, pulse, haywire. So that's great against all your Mechanicum forces. The Volkite Macro Seiko I've already gone through. The Neutron Blaster, which I think has been on so many people's wish lists, and finally we get it on a Predator. So this Neutron Blaster is the same weapon that's mounted on the faster, lightly armoured, much cheaper Sabre tank. This is why people go nuts for the Neutron Blaster on that vehicle, because you can have a squadron of 3 of those, not 4, but they can whittle a target down. You're paying what, 240 points or so. You're paying a solid 300 points for 3 Neutron Blasters with 3 Sabre tanks. But anyway, going back to Neutron Blaster, why is it so good? Well, it's a 24-inch range, which isn't the best, but I draw the attention to its movement speed of 14, so you still have an effective range there of 38 inches. It's a strength 10, which is amazing. AP 1, amazing. It's 1 shot, it's concussive 3, shock, pulse, sunder, and gets hot. So gets hot is the downer in all this, but everything else is brilliant. It's a pure tank sniper. I guess it's not as useful as the heavy conversion beamer in terms of wiping out squads, because it's only a 1 shot. It's not a blast, especially not a 5-inch blast. So that's definitely against all your armor that you're going to. So that's definitely to be used against heavy armor. And then finally, the Gravis las cannon. What can we say about this awesome weapon? It's the same Gravis las cannon that your dreadnoughts are equipped with, which I showed earlier. It's a 48-inch range, strength 9, AP 2, heavy 2, sunder. So yeah, that does mean that why would you pick one of these over a Contemptor dreadnought that is equipped with 2 Gravis las cannons? So Gravis las cannon dreadnought or Mortis dreadnought is pumping out 4 las cannon shots. This one is only going to be pumping out 2. I mean, of course, you can give it the sponsor mounted las cannons, so you're then looking at 160 points as opposed to the very expensive 205 pointed Contemptor. So the main reason is points cost, really. You're getting 4 laser cannon shots for a fair amount cheaper on a mobile platform that can move almost double the speed. It can move 14 inches as opposed to the Contemptor's 8. I mean, yeah, I'd probably say the Contemptor is more survivable because it does get that save, and it does get the invulnerable save, and it does have the 6 wounds as opposed to 3 hull points, and it can't be one-shotted. But that's where the comparisons kind of end for that. So that's all of the exhaustive list for the weapons for the Predator. I hope that's helped you pick one of the 9 turret-mounted weapons, and don't worry if you're still at a loss. Games Workshop made it very easy for you to hot swap the turrets and actually hot swap the turret weapons themselves. So if you've got your mind set on a particular loadout, you can always swap it about, which is great. I think that's a really great feature that they've implemented in these plastic Predator tanks. So the final kind of little comparison I want to make is, how does it compare to the other tanks? You know, you're looking at your heavy support section and you're eyeing up a Sakharin. You know, the Sakharin is bigger. It looks pretty good. It's got but it does cost more points. And also the weaponry. The Sakharins are very specific to certain roles. You know, you've got the normal Sakharin with the accelerator autocannon, which is good at rendering things to death. You've got the Arcus, which has those missiles. You've got the Punisher, which is great against lesser armoured units, and then you've got the Venator, which is specific to tanks, and the Omega, which is specific to heavy armoured elite units. So in a way, the Sakharin is a bigger but faster mobile weapons platform that's slightly more heavily armoured, but has a more of a focused array of weapons, whereas this is more of a jack of all trades kind of tank. The Predator and the Sakharin have exactly the same armour for the front and sides, so as long as you're keeping the front bit of the tank facing your enemy, should be okay. But where the Sakharin excels is that rear armour of 12, and it does have 4 hull points. It also has that hull mounted heavy bolter in most of them. Even the Venator has a pintle mounted heavy bolter as standard, so a little bit of point defence included that you don't have to pay anything extra for, whereas the Predator you do. The downside is, of course, the Sakharin does have a larger sort of silhouette, I guess you call it, so it's going to be much more of a target, whereas having 2 of these, or maybe 3, you can soak up a bit of damage. And that's all I've really wanted to say about the Predator. It's a long review today. I wanted to do it justice. The second Predator review will probably be as long because I'll go through all those weapons and things again. Please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor protects.